This is a recap of Wednesday, October 7th. Here's today's agenda. One thing that I changed after class today was I put the video adding and subtracting decimals in the links so you don't have to go to the Pear Deck to watch that video and take notes. So that's one thing that you might want to do is just go take notes on that 10-minute video. I am going to show you the Pear Deck in case you want to do it, but if you're catching up, then this is optional. But I will show it to you. It is not an assignment. It gives me feedback, so it's more for me than for you, although there is something in here that I do want to show you. So the first card is the main card about adding or subtracting decimals. And one thing that you could do is if you go here after you take notes today, you might want to just check these boxes off for me. So if you understand that, you could hit check. If you have a question about any part of this, then you could put a question mark. So that gives me good feedback about how I need to plan in the future for lessons. There is a video here that I made a link on outside of this presentation, so you don't have to watch the link inside the presentation. It's a very good video. It says that it's not working here, but if you click here, it will go to the video. This is a puzzle that you can work on if you want. It is certainly not required, but I will show you, and I showed in class how to do this. This is a magic square, meaning that all the rows and all the columns all add up to 3.25. So what we learned in the notes, if you watch the video, and what I'll explain later when I do the CAMI 3, week 3, is that when you add or subtract decimals, you have to add up the decimal points. So I want this column right here, or excuse me, this row to add up to 3.25. So I'm going to add 0.7 plus 1.06. So notice how I've lined the columns up, the decimals up, which lines up the ones, the tenths, and the hundredths. So that means I'm adding ones to ones, tenths to tenths, and hundredths to hundredths. And notice that there's nothing up here. So what we can do is we can fill in a 0. So 0 plus 6 is 6, 7 plus 0 is 7, and 0 plus 1 is 1, so 1.76. So 1.76 goes right here. Again, this is optional. If you want to show that you understand this, this is a good way to do it. Another, I'll do this column. Another example, I'm going to add 1.06 to 0.64. 1.7, and then I'm going to subtract 1.70 from 3.25. And I'm realizing that I made a mistake back here, so I'm going to fix that in just a minute. I forgot to subtract it from 3.25. So 5 minus 0 is 0. I can't take 7 from 2, so I have to borrow. 12 minus 7 is 5. Decimal point gets dropped down. 2 minus 1 is 1. So this is 1.5. So going back to this 1.76, that wasn't the answer there. I have to subtract 1.76 from 3.25. So I have to line them up 15 minus 6 is 9. 11 minus 7 is 4. Put the decimal point right there, 2 minus 1. So it's 1.49. So that is not 1.76, because if I added those together, I wouldn't have got 3.25. So this is 1.49. Let's double check that. Double check that thinking. 0.7 plus 1.49 plus 1.06. We need a 0 right there. 9 and 6 is 15. And that is 12. 3.25. Okay, there's another puzzle that looks like this. And it says to solve the puzzle, each of the numbers must be equal to the sum of the two numbers below it. So that means right here, 0.5 plus 1.3 equals 1.8. So that's where we got that right there. If we want to fill this one in, then I'm going to do 1.3 plus 0.2. And I get 1.5. That goes right there. So again, this is an option. If you want to solve this, I will certainly take a look at it. And then if you, another option is you could click on the link and you could go to Khan Academy, and that would take you to 7 practice problems. And then finally, if you could write 2 things that you learned, you can draw or use the text tool. So I'd know how you do it. So that, how you're doing. So that is this link right here. We did not go back to the fraction quick check today. We're going to go back to that tomorrow. We did not do this today, and we did not do this today. We didn't do 3 or 6 in the list. So there was some work time, and then we went to the CAMI assignment week 3, and we kept working. So that's what I'm going to spend the rest of the time on. Is we added on page 4 that the target is to add and subtract decimals. So if we are adding and subtracting decimals, what we learned is to add or line up the decimal points vertically. So I'll do an example here while I'm explaining it. So I'm going to line up 3.704, and the decimal point for the 17.58 needs to be directly below it, so that this 7, which is in the ones, lines up with the 3, which is in the ones. This 1 right here is in the tens. This 5 is in the tenth. The 8 is in the hundredths, and there is no thousandth, so I'll just put in a 0. So I'm adding these, so I add these together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 7 and 5 is 12. I put the decimal point right there, and that's 11, so 21.284. Something that was really important in the video was to check your thinking, and that would be this is around 4, this is around 18. If I add those together, I get around 22, and that keeps us from putting the answer of, for example, 212.84 or 2.128. Let's try another one. .88. 8 minus 8 is 0. Can't take 8 from 6. 16 minus 8 is 8. This decimal point goes right there. 4 minus 0 is 4. So that's 4.8. And again, just checking, 6 minus 1 is around 5. That's certainly close. 4.8 seems closer than 48 or 0.48. So I think we got that one. 11.3, here's another major point in the notes today, is we don't have a decimal at all for 9. We don't know what are we going to do, where are we going to put it. It seems to be floating around. Well, 9 is the same as 9 and nothing. So that's really what that is, 9.0. So we're going to put the 9 right there, 0.0. and subtract 3 minus 0 is 3. 11 minus 9 is 2, 2.3. We chose a few more of these problems. I'm going to be filling in the rest tomorrow, but I'll do a few more of these. These are lined up for me. These are not lined up, so I have to line these up. Don't really need to put a 0 right here. The zeros are for to the right of the decimal. 11 minus 6 is 5. And let's do one more. I'll do 7.3 minus 2.9. 7.3 minus 2.9. Decimal point goes down. I can't take 9 from 3, so I'm going to borrow from the ones, and that becomes 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. And that is a recap for Wednesday, October 7th.